Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Real Deal Talk. Today is a big day. We have got Mr. Tim Smith in the house, a.k.a. Coach. He is riled up right now, but not as much as me. But even though he's riled up, he's kind of one of those that's like the duck on the pond, where on top of the water they're real calm. It doesn't look like anything's moving around, but underneath the water, the feet are going a million miles a minute. So I'm going to call Tim the duck on the pond, right? A lot of look at him. He's calm, he's cool, he's smooth. But Coach, the reason we call him Coach is because this guy from day one in his life, he's coached. You name the football level, right? High school, college. Where was college? Purdue
University, Northern Arizona University.
Nice. Yeah. And then also a little bit of a stint in a couple of with a couple of NFL teams like Arizona Cardinals.
Yep.
Chicago Bears. So we're going to get into some of that stuff. But first and foremost, let me hit you with a quick sponsor. And listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in once again. From the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough. The feedback that we're getting, the downloads that are coming in, the views that are coming in on YouTube. We just went over, and most of our listeners are on Spotify and iTunes, but even YouTube just went over 200 subscribers and over, I think, 100,000 views on YouTube, I believe, or 150, something like that, Spencer. So we're flowing here. We got a little flow going. So, and I'm humbly saying this. I can't thank you guys enough. If you're a fan of the show, the feedback, I can't hear it enough because it keeps me going. It just makes me feel so good about what we're doing in here, leveraging the stories of amazing people like Tim Smith here. That's going to impact lives for basically forever. This is these messages and these stories and these testimonies that you guys are sharing on the show. Will live in eternity. 24 hours a day, we're impacting lives, which is just the most exciting thing to ever think about, that while we're sleeping, these interviews are working for us, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So I can't thank you guys enough. Please post reviews, share the show with others, subscribe to our channels. Also, sponsorship, if you want to support the show financially. Real Deal Sleep, our mattress company's flipping the bill around here. Okay, Real Deal Sleep. Go to realdealsleep.com if you want to set an appointment with me. As you guys may know, I specialize in sleep systems, which is zero gravity, where you're going to sleep with some elevation with your head and your feet, which helps with snoring, apnea, reflux, circulation issues. If you or significant other have different sleeping positions or different sleeping firmness levels that you like, I've got a number bed now where you can actually customize the firmness on your side of the bed. So once again, if you want to support the show financially, Real Deal Sleep, come down, purchase a mattress, refer somebody to us, go to the website, come down to the showroom, come see me. And once again, thank you so much, guys. I can't thank you enough. Love you guys. All right, Mr. Tim Smith. Now, how old are you, bro, by the way?
59.
59. Young buck. Look at this guy. All right, so we're both still in the 50s here.
Yeah.
All right, this is good. All right, it's two 50-year-old men chopping it up today.
Got some wisdom going on.
Yeah, we've got a little wisdom. We got 111 years between us at this table right here. It's a lot of years.
There we go.
It's a lot of years, a lot of wisdom going to be spread today. All right, so speaking of which, go back for me. Where were you born and raised? Let's go back to childhood a little bit, because we need to figure out how you got to this big, amazing coach guy, right? How did that happen? So go back to childhood, born and raised. Give me some stuff about the parents. How'd that go?
Yeah, so at heart, I'm a Midwestern guy. So I was born in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Okay, wow.
Only spent a short time of my life there, but my family's originally from Minnesota. So huge Vikings fan.
Oh, yeah.
I actually am a Viking, so half Norwegian.
Are you really?
Yeah.
It makes sense. You look like a Viking.
So it's a family thing. It's in the genes. It's a part of the whole culture.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, the whole Viking culture.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah.
I didn't. You know what? Now that you're saying that, I didn't realize that's where the name came from, because there's a big culture out there of actual Vikings.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Settlements in my family, actually. There's some settlements on the coast of Lake Superior. They're Viking settlements.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. I just thought it was a made up name.
No. It's part of the whole state culture. Big Lutheran Norwegian culture there. That's just part of the fabric.
And so how long before they cancel the Viking name because of what they did back in the day, right? Right? Pillaging and, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I said that.
I don't see how that's going to happen in Minnesota, but
I hope not. As a kid, because do you ever watch the off on a side note? Do you ever watch the show on what's it, Netflix, or was it Netflix Vikings? Right?
Oh yeah,
you watch
definitely. definitely. My wife's a big fan of all the Viking stuff.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Yeah, there you
because
go.
of the connection.
It makes sense.
But yeah, it's like everything that comes up Vikings she watches.
She's all over it.
I'm in it too.
Nice. All right. All right. So talking about childhood, brothers, sisters, how was the family? How were the parents?
So I'm a baby of 6.
Wow.
6 kids. My parents were awesome, incredible people. They actually dated since the 6th grade.
No kidding.
My mom's maiden name is Scrine. My dad's name is Smith, obviously. So my dad sat behind my mom all throughout school.
Yeah, 2 S's.
He used to dunk her ponytails in the inkwells, trying to get her attention.
No
when
way.
they were in elementary school. Yeah, and then they became high school sweethearts. And Dad went off to fight in World War II and came back, got married, started all of us.
Wow. So nobody knows what that means, the ink wells. Do you remember, was it the desks had ink wells in them?
Yeah.
You had to dip your
you
pen.
had to dip your pen in the inkwell, and then you write.
Oh
It
my
wasn't,
gosh.
it was way before Bic pens or ballpoint pens or anything like that. So
It's amazing if you think about it, man. Like what do kids think about? Like when we say this stuff, they're like whatever. They don't even pay attention to it. They don't care, right?
Exactly.
Unless they're on a phone tapping. They're not like, oh, whatever, inkwells. Like, isn't it weird that we didn't have cell phones? We had landlines where we had to dial a phone.
Yeah,
Remember this?
Totally. I remember hearing the stories. Inkwells were long gone when I came around.
Yeah.
So it's just hearing the stories about it. It's like, wow, you guys really did that. And they did.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Along with all the other stuff they went through. So.
All right, so parents, great. Now, but brothers and sisters, what's the denomination of brothers and sisters that you had? 5?
So four brothers, 2 sisters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, my.
4 of us males and two
So
sisters.
what was that household like? It must have been at like World War III in there.
It was
Right?
Yeah, we had
Fighting.
a boxing ring in our basement.
Did you
so
really?
That's kind of how my dad. He was a big boxer, so he'd settle things between the
Are you
brothers. Go down, put the gloves on.
Are you serious? That's a great idea because I only know it with 2 kids, and it's a girl and a boy, and there's a 5-year difference, and they fight every freaking day, like constantly. So I can't imagine 4 brothers.
Yeah.
So you guys would seriously take it down to the basement, hit it, get into the ring.
Yeah, and it was more of a learning thing for me because there's 16 years between me and my oldest brother.
Wow.
Difference. So, for me, I just run down there and kind of watch it all happen, and then learn. They'd be teaching me and all that. So, but yeah, that was the way settled things.
What was the first sport that you got into as a kid? Do you remember?
Football.
Oh, football. Yeah. Did you play other sports as well?
I played other sports. Actually, lettered in 4 different sports in high school.
Wow.
So football, basketball, baseball, and track.
And track.
Track.
What'd you do in track?
Ran 400s. primarily.
No way.
Yeah, man's race.
Well, it's funny. The last thing I asked my son this morning, so I can't believe you said this.
Yeah.
On the way here, because he came down, he goes, "Hey, Dad." He comes down, he gives me a hug before I leave, or gives me the giant hug, we call it, that I need before I go into the battle of the day. Comes from my son, and he's got a track meet this coming weekend, but it's kind of a voluntary one, like it's a big one, and if you want to run, you can run. I said, "Hey, why don't you run one race this week?" And he said, "Well, which one?" You know what I said, right?
Yeah.
The 400.
Yeah. Oh.
And he said, I'm like, come on, man, you got one more in you, because this will be the last track meet of the year. And it's funny, it was the 400 because he ran one last weekend. So he's run 2 400s so far.
Wow.
And the second one he ran, which is last weekend, you know how it wasn't good. Like he felt
No, that's
demons
so
were
wild.
coming in. It was hard,
Yeah.
right? So he pushed it, is my point. When you push it, you're questioning your life on the last 100.
So true.
And he was there, dude. So I'm like, oh God, he's not going to ever want to run this again because it was rough. Like I thought he was going to pass out afterwards. Anyway, I can't believe that you brought up the 400.
I know right where he's feeling because my first 400 race.
Yeah.
I didn't run track until my junior year in high school.
Wow.
And I only went out for track to get faster for football.
That's right. That's exactly what we're doing.
And so, I was in most of all the short sprints, but my coach thought I'd be a really good 400 runner.
Yeah.
So my first track meet, I'm going, okay, I'm going against some state champions, and like, these guys are fast. I'm just going to bust this out. Track's different than football.
Totally different.
You gotta learn.
Yes.
And I just took off, and there was no, cruising, no, it was just all out. And I like made up the stagger. I'm out in front, and my coach is up in the box. He's like talking to the head track coach, saying, "Oh my God, Smith, he's like, this is amazing." Get to the last 100, dude, and the bear jumps on my back. Rigor mortis setting in. I'm like trying to struggle to move my arms. I mean, the whole field just blows past me, and I finished like 10 seconds, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
I finished like 10 seconds behind everybody else, and I didn't even know if I'm going to make it to the finish line. Inside, I felt like I could make it, but it was like my whole body was shutting down. So I know exactly.
That's
where
exactly
he was at.
what happened to him this last meet.
And I remember running past the finish line and hearing some of my friends in the stands laughing.
Are you serious?
That's my memory. I'm like, I am not gonna ever do that again. That was my feeling. It's like, no way. I've never been embarrassed like that. So yeah, but that was the beginning.
Did you make a comeback? How was the next one?
Did make a comeback. I ended up qualifying for state.
And what did you change? Like, did you say not go out quite as fast?
Yeah, I went back and said, hey, man, I got to learn if I'm going to run this race, I got to learn how to run this race.
Right. Because it's a science.
Exactly. And so that's when I started, okay, got to listen to my coaches, got to really, really listen to what they're saying, got to take this, training in segments and learn how to really break it down, which is, fundamentals. That's what a coach is, man. They break it down into fundamentals and take something that seems complex or hard and make it, doable. Yeah. Right. So that's really what I went to. And then throughout the course of the season, it was just consistency, working on it.
That's right.
Being steady. And I gradually saw things improve.
Wow.
I got in better condition too. So, that bear jumps on you at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened to him this last race. He was literally out. He was second place coming to the back turn. And then the bear jumped on his back, and I actually didn't think he was going to finish. He was in that rough a shape.
Yeah, and
he made it. I was so proud that he at least finished. It was brutal.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned the 400 because it's the last thing I said to my son this morning was we were talking about the 400. All right. So anyway,
gosh,
amazing. So what was your favorite? Obviously, football was your favorite. Yeah.
Yes. Without a doubt.
And then track, how did that translate over? Didn't that translate well to the football field, you think, as far as speed goes?
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, that's really the thing that got me recruited.
Wow.
My senior year I was an undersized linebacker. I was really, people thought I was like 205.
Yeah.
But I was like a 185-pound linebacker.
Oh, you were.
And
which is not big.
I'd show up on my recruiting trips, and your recruiting trips, you weigh in and they measure you and they do all that kind of stuff. I'd step on the scale, 184 pounds. I remember being at the University of Colorado, 184 pounds. And
were they like guys?
Everybody's getting offered, at the end of the trip, and hey, thanks for coming. Appreciate you coming. It's like, wow.
No offers.
But no offers. But University of Arizona, where I ended up playing, it was in my hometown, and they had seen me run in track meets.
Yeah.
So they knew I could run. So okay, if he can't make it as a linebacker, doesn't blow up and become a big linebacker, we can make him a safety.
Yeah.
And so that's what I became at the college level when I played. Was
because that's a safety size.
Yeah.
Roughly 190-ish.
Yeah. Used to be.
It used to be. Yeah.
They're bigger now.
Yeah. Now they're big boys.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. And it was because of track.
Because of track. Came down to track.
And so 400, did you do the 200 and the 100 as well?
I did.
You did.
And did the 4x1.
What was your best 400?
My best 400 time?
Do you remember?
Yeah, well, yeah.
50 something?
So my first track meet, I finished last. When the bear jumped on my back.
Yeah.
My last track meet, I finished last. But the difference was my best time ever was my last track. It was in the state meet. So
was it in the 50s?
Yeah.
Wow. And you were last?
I think it's 53, 63, 2.
And this is high school. This is
high school, yeah.
Man.
I finished last. Everybody else they were going on to track scholarships and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, all right, did my best.
That's all you can do.
Absolutely.
Because I just started coaching flag football. So I'm coaching flag now, and my number one rule of the team is do your best. Number 2 is have fun. These are the first 2 rules. 7 years old. You know this, Coach.
Yep.
Do your best, right?
Definitely.
We can't ask for more than that. So it's been, and we're going to get more into that as well, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so go back. Childhood, high school, parents. Now, parents, was dad working all the time? Was mom home with you? Give me some home life. What molded you as a child that kind of set you up for success, either in sports or life itself? Can you give me any childhood, the way that you were molded in, let's say, I always say programmed from parents, like what was the home life like, dad working, whatever?
Yeah, my dad was a real successful insurance agent, and mom stayed home. And then my father got really sick, had an ulcer that just ruptured.
Yeah,
almost died.
Wow.
Brought him back, but then doctor said, hey, you can't really go back to a real high stress work environment like insurance.
Yeah.
So he kind of gave all that up. Still worked, but became an Orkin man. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. But with that, my mom decided then to launch a career in her 40s.
Wow.
And so she started working for J.C. Penney's at the time, and then just blew up. I mean, really became a senior merchandising manager, senior buyer for all of J.C. Penney's. Would get invited to New York and sit on the board and direct, different departments how to merchandise and buy. So it was like, I saw my parents work together as a team.
Wow.
And so, that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It was their love for one another, right, allowed them to, work together for the good of all of us.
Yeah.
And through some, pretty hard times.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
And so that's incredible, because a lot of families, like if the dynamic is off, that'll create like a major issue in the family. Like if he's not providing anymore.
Yes.
Right? Mom's not willing to, let's say, step up and cover his back or pick up the slack. Right? So the fact that they showed you that
completely
is so,
demonstrated that.
Yeah. And you guys, so did all your brothers and sisters, did you all appreciate that? Or did you just kind of take it for granted, you think? Or, because when you're young, it's like you don't, or were you the main one that really looked at that and said, wow, that's what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think we all grew to appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think my older brothers, it's kind of affected them more because
Yeah.
that happened right when they were, really in high school or going off to college or around those years. So it kind of affected them a bit more because it was more impactful.
Right,
I was younger, so I was
Yeah.
living through this. But I think we all really got a great understanding of the sacrifice that they made for all of us.
Yeah.
And how that really propelled us forward. And that example of teamwork is just,
That was everything.
clearly there. Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And did all your brothers, did they all play sports as well?
They did in high school.
In high school?
Yeah. I'm the only one that went on to play in college.
Now, was there a lot of competitiveness within the family?
Yes.
Big time.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and you were 16 years behind the oldest?
Yes. Yeah.
So he was long gone before you even got to.
Yeah. So like he graduated from high school in '66.
Yeah.
Which was, pretty turbulent time of our nation's history.
Yes.
It went right into the whole Vietnam thing. So I remember being 2, when he graduated, and then just him being gone.
Did he went to Vietnam?
Yeah, that's a whole nother big story. But yeah, it was.
It's your older brother.
My oldest brother. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna have to get into that in a second here, if you're all right with it. But okay, so go back. So you saw the teamwork with your parents. How did they get along? How was the dynamic in the home? Anything else you can point out that was impactful to you as a child, like the way that they raised you, the example that they set?
Yeah, I mean, the faith was everything.
Okay, get into that a little bit.
Yeah, my parents were kind of controversial in that they came from either side of the tracks in this small town in Minnesota, and one half of the tracks was Lutheran, Norwegian Lutherans, right?
Yeah.
Which my mom 100% was, and the other side of the track was Irish Catholic.
Ah,
Okay, and which my dad 100% was.
yes.
And in my grandfather on my dad's side was the chief of police. He used to actually drive the train, the Great Northern Railroad train. He was an engineer.
Wow.
But when they shut the trains down during World War II, then he became the chief of police. And so on the other side was my mom's dad, my other grandfather, he owned the bank. So them kind of crossing the tracks and becoming high school sweethearts was like a big deal.
Really?
Like in this small Midwestern town. Yeah.
Oh,
So this when they decided to get married, it was this big Catholic versus Protestant, Irish Catholic versus the Norwegian Lutheran thing, and they just made, it's our faith that's important.
Yes.
Not necessarily the denomination.
Right.
And so, they walked that out through all of our lives, basically, and taught us that, my mom especially.
Wow. And so were you in church every Sunday as kids? Did you go with it? Were you fighting it?
Yes, I was in church every Sunday. It was, school wasn't an option. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was, because we went to the Catholic church.
Oh, you did?
Love Catholics to this day.
Yeah.
I kind of feel I am Catholic means universal.
Yes.
So I feel I'm more Catholic than I've ever been.
Yes.
I'm more universal than I've ever been with my
Wow.
faith now. But so I love Catholics, and growing up in that environment, I was, I would have been categorized as an ADD kid for sure.
Of course.
And so sitting through a mass was always
Rough.
Always rough. But I would always have to sit next to my dad, and if I got a little too squirrely, I'd get the little missalette they have in the pews, and I'd get a little missalette slap on the back of the head just to remind me, focus.
Wait, what's the missalette? What is this?
The missalette it's like a prayer book or a hymn book.
Oh,
yeah. Right? And it's like every week it's new.
Yeah.
Right? And it has all the scripture that they're going to be reading from, and has all the liturgy kind of written out, and all the stuff that you're supposed to say and all that stuff.
And he'd knock you in the back of the head with that thing.
Yeah, you'd have that folded up, ready to go.
So every Sunday, and now, but where did Mom usually go to church though?
She'd go with us.
Oh, she'd okay.
Yeah.
But wasn't she going to a different church before though?
She was.
She was.
But she decided, hey, this is important for all of us to be to church, in church together. So it was like, despite the differences, this is what's most important, that we're here together in faith.
Love that. Amazing. Grounded in faith, the overall faith, right?
No question.
Amazing. And so at what point would you feel that you started really appreciating the faith part? Like, or did you even know what that meant when you were young? Like, as you got older? Because all I remember is Catholic church with my cousins, and it was we just got through it. Like kneeling, standing was so boring.
Definitely.
We just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
I don't remember appreciating anything, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of catechism class.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Because I'd in my time sitting through the mass, I'd see all these different images of the saints, these carved statues, right? And I remember asking in catechism class, we're studying the 10 Commandments, and I said, are we really supposed to have these carved wooden images, these idols in mass, and we look at them all every single Sunday, right? And we're not supposed to have idols.
Right.
And I remember asking my catechism teacher that, and then they had this talk with my parents, and then I'm home.
Yeah.
So I got kicked out.
You got
for
kicked
asking
out?
too many questions.
And so he didn't even answer the question.
No, I don't think he had an answer to the question. He said, well, those are the saints, It's like, okay, but we can respect and admire the saints without having wooden images there.
Yeah, making them idols.
And I was like 10, 8, 9, 10, right in there. So,
wow.
So they kind of, my parents kind of gave me some freedom I think I needed.
Yeah.
Then to not force that so much.
Yeah. How did they react to that? What did they say? Were they like, they were cool with it? Just said, you know what, good question, or were they like, no, you can't answer, or you can't ask questions?
I think they, like, especially my mom said, hey, as you grow in your faith, you're going to understand things better.
Yeah.
Right. And even though, again, that was a difference that she was seeing, she had the faith enough to believe that God was going to, walk me through that. So it wasn't like anything she was going to force on me.
And so, any trials and tribulations in your childhood that you can remember? Anything you went through that was rough?
Definitely. So I was born with what's called a strabismus.
Okay.
Which is commonly known as a lazy eye or cross eye.
Ah.
So I had 3 different surgeries to correct it.
Wow.
And one when I was 2, it was really unsuccessful. One when I was 14, which really it made it a little better, but it's still very obvious.
Yeah.
And then finally I was able to get it corrected when I was 38.
38?
So it took kind of technology that many years to really kind of catch up.
Could you see okay? Did you?
Yeah, I had 20/20 vision.
And now, but visually, when looking at you, could you tell one of the eyes was off?
Absolutely. So
did you get made fun of as kids?
Is we focus between, we're taught to be, focus with both eyes.
Right.
And when I would focus, I'd primarily focus out of one, and the one I wasn't focusing out of would drift in. So I could switch, I'd switch my focus to the other eye, and then the other eye would drift in. So I'd freak people out a lot.
And so, did you get made fun of? Kids are just relentless.
That was absolutely relentless.
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 Did that affect you in a way? Like, how did you react to that?
Yeah, I think, I went through periods of hey, why can't I be like everybody else? And why do I have this, God? And why do I? Because, if you think about when you look at somebody,
yeah,
and they kind of look over to the side, like, what's he looking at?
Right.
Even if they don't say anything,
yeah,
you could tell that,
yes,
they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's like whenever you engage with somebody, you talk to somebody, that's the constant reminder that something is up with you. All right. So I think, I was looking for something to kind of validate myself, make myself feel valuable.
Yeah.
And I found that on the football field, believe it or not.
And so
that's where things all became kind of even.
And so, but did you have a good group of friends that did accept you? And
yeah, I had friends, but even then, they would join in sometimes with the crowd or the group
about the eye.
About the eyes, yeah.
Wow.
Cross-eyed.
Yeah.
And I developed a kind of a resiliency about it. I remember, one of the stories my parents talk about is I'm riding my trike out in the front yard, and like 3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah.
And some guy goes by, and an older kid, and he looks at me, and he said, "Hey, you're cross-eyed." And I said, "No, I'm 10."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know, at a very young age, I kind of developed this resiliency about it.
And how do you think that carried with you in your life, like this whole thing that you went through? Because this is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
This is a big deal because kids are relentless. And when you get just made fun of and people don't accept you, maybe you don't feel like you belong, you know what I mean? That can go south.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where my parents, I think, really stepped in and made me feel loved. They really, really stressed how valuable I was, things that I'm doing, they were involved in, they supported. I don't remember any football game I was ever at that they weren't there.
Yeah.
They were just there. And And so when you have your parents believing in you,
Yeah.
that's a big difference.
It's a big difference. That's great. And so how important is that, by the way? I'm going to use that as a segue to a quick topic here. How important is it for parents to be at the game or to be at to support their kid on the field?
Oh, there wasn't a time, even when I was playing in college, and there's 60,000 people in the stands. I'd take a minute during pregame to look up, and just kind of know, hey, they're there.
Yeah.
And that happened all throughout. Growing up, it was just knowing that they're there, they're believing you, they're supporting you, they're cheering you on. Just makes all the difference in the world.
And so, as a coach, like, you've seen obviously both sides where parents that don't go to the games, right?
Yeah.
So as a coach, how important is it for parents that are listening and watching to this, how important is it that parents are out there to support their child?
Yeah. Sadly, I've seen those that don't have that support.
Yeah.
And they're looking. They're looking for that validation. That, hey, this means something to somebody, just other than myself, right?
Right.
And whatever passions we develop as children, or the things that are placed in us, if, we're pursuing those things, and parents jump on there and cheer them on, and get into that just flames something that you never know how big that's going to get.
Yeah.
And what my parents were flaming at me, has affected,
your
hundreds
whole life.
and hundreds of people.
Yeah, hundreds.
People that I've coached.
Right.
And then we can talk into all the players that I've coached that have gone into the NFL, and players that I've coached that have, gotten Division I scholarships, and even players that I've coached now that are head coaches in the NFL. So that support of the parents and that belief in you can just spawn something that you never know how big it's going to get.
And I'm so glad that you put it this way, man, because we're going to go further on this and the reason I'm going further is because as a coach, I'm seeing it on both sides. I'm seeing the parents that just don't show up sometimes. They'll have an excuse that they can't get to the game, blah, 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 right? And I can see it in the kid that they're just looking for some form of validation just to be seen, right?
Yeah, right.
Because everything we do is for recognition, right? Being appreciated or recognized.
Yep.
It's what drives us, right? Recognition is everything. So, and to what you just said, Tim, the way you put that, parents, listen to me. What Tim just said, because it's not just about them being like this amazing all-star football player someday. Mm-hmm. You have no idea, like you just said, where that's going to carry them for you into you as a coach. And look at the lives that you now have indirectly affected, and look at how many generations that's going to go on for.
Yeah,
because your parents were at the games supporting you in your passion.
Definitely.
It's incredible.
It is.
When you think about how far down that goes, just that support.
And that's really, they showed up.
They showed up.
They showed up. They were there. They were present. Right?
I love that.
And how many of us are, just look for relationships where we're present.
Yeah.
And that was a present from my parents. This is that they were present.
They were present.
Were active. They were involved.
They were involved. Unbelievable. Now, how important, okay, go further. The dad, the father figure. Now, moms, of course, right? Moms seem to be, in my experience, the ones that are always going to be tried and true supporting their son.
Yep.
And I'm talking sons here because we're talking football. So what about the mom seems to be tried and true, but what about the father that's fallen off? How important is it to have that father figure there?
Oh my gosh. Hugely important.
Yeah.
We, I think, we have a God-shaped hole in us that's only filled by our Heavenly Father.
Heavenly Father, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's our fathers here on earth that give us that impression, right, of what our Heavenly Father must be like by the way we are parenting, by the way we are fathers. So if we're not being led in fathering by the Father,
Yeah.
Then, I think we got to check ourselves and get connected, to the source of that. But being that father figure and making those impressions have just a huge ripple effect in children, not just in sons, but in, we're finding out more and more of the impact of a father is so important in the identity of our daughters.
Yes.
Right. And so, the absence of a father, whether it's through separation or whether it's in an intentional decision by a dad not to really be involved, we're just so missing the boat, right?
Yeah.
And not being that fatherly figure that's a representative of our Heavenly Father.
And keep going with this, man, because I want this. I want my, the fact that you're on the show today is so. I'm so excited about this because you're such a great father figure to so many. I've heard this about you so much by so many people, and most specifically, I'm going to mention this guy because he wanted me to give you a shout out. David Ewing. DU said, hey, when he found out you were coming on the show, he's like, please give that man and his family my love. Talk about a father figure. That's what he said about you. Like you're just this fatherly guy. Yeah. Yeah, he and I'm glad this came up because he wanted me to give it. He didn't tell me to do it on the air, but I'm doing it because it was special that he mentioned it. He said, "Oh man,
it's
that
real
guy."
Deal, right?
That's right, exactly.
Come on.
So say something. Talk about that a little further with as far as father figures. You saying channel through your Heavenly Father, because I personally didn't have a father. I did, obviously, but he was not present at all. But luckily, I had a mom that she's probably stronger than most men.
Yeah.
Right. But father figure, keep going further with how important for fathers listening or moms that are listening that are going to make their husband listen to this podcast because of this. Keep going on how important this is.
Oh, well, I mean, I think the step is really being connected to the source.
Yeah.
As I said.
Yep.
Right. And that's really the heart.
And explain what that means.
So, when we have a relationship with God the Father,
yep.
Right, then all things are possible.
Right.
And including being the best father that you can be, because you're learning directly from the source,
yep.
Right? And really, that's a key for me in everything I do. Is when you look at like John 17,
right?
That's Jesus going away to pray. The whole chapter is him praying to his Father, right? We like to talk about the Lord's Prayer, which is great, but really that whole chapter is the Lord's Prayer. And the heart of it is Father. He's praying, Father, may they, us, be one as you and I are one. And that's Jesus's heart for us. So it's this, whether it's father, businessman, athlete, all these different roles that we play, coach, teacher, pastor, all this stuff. It's God is bringing us into oneness with the Father so that our lives can be congruent at every level, and so fathering is like it's our first line of ministry. Right? That's our first calling. And to love like the Father, to be of the Father, to be one with him is everything in life.
And it's really what I'm learning here, Tim, is that all of this connected to the source, it's just about being a good person. It's about being righteous. Living a good, like being, being on the good for others, like being righteous. You know what I mean? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's so simple. Like what are we doing here, right? Like what's the main mission? Like you said, through Heavenly Father. Like because a lot of people people that listen don't understand what this even means.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So that's why I'm trying to kind of break this down even further.
Excellent.
Into kind of layman's terms, which is, a lot for me because I'm learning on the fly here.
Right.
All I knew was I saw a group of guys and women that are kicking ass and taking names and doing good in the world. I'm going to sum it up.
Right.
And living boldly and leading like I've never seen lead, and just quality human beings that are doing a lot in the world in a good way. I'm like, okay, I want to be a part of that. And that's why I went to Awaken Church.
Beautiful.
I saw incredible results with incredible human beings. I said, okay, I want to be in that. I don't know.
Thank God
and it just happened to be a church, right? We can go further on that later in the interview here, but keep going with about what that's all about. Like, how important it is to like because the world right now is in shambles. It always pretty much is, because that's the way our society is programming us, is to be in fear, to be broke, sick, and fearful. That's pretty much where we're programmed, right?
Sure.
So how do you find the source? Like how do you channel this? Like, for people that are struggling right now, they're always either depressed or pulling the victim card, or they're going through trials and tribulations and saying, why me? Go further with this now that we're on this topic here.
Yeah. I think, if you ask anybody, do you want to be the best? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, we can do that. But, anybody on the street, you can say, hey, you want to be the best? Yeah, I want to be the best. But, really, are you willing to pay the price?
Yeah.
To be the best? Right? And the great thing about getting connected with our Heavenly Father is He's already paid the price for us. Right? Jesus has paid that price for us. That we don't have to struggle about being a good person, right? When we get connected to Jesus, the heart of the champion, because that's who He is the champion of heaven, right? We get connected to the heart of the champion. He comes within us to live that life in us. So it's like our choice is made, to follow Him, to pray Him into our life,
right?
Ask Him to come into us. But then that heart of the champion starts to take over. It cannot not be a champion. And so that's what we become. And so it takes the struggle off trying to be the best, trying to be our best, trying to be a good person. And we realize, this is who I am now. And what I can be has no limitation anymore.
Right.
So in tapping into the source, we go from a people that may have a visitation of God, right? That's really what's happened, is where in the Old Testament, God would come and visit with people, right? But in the New Testament, through Jesus, we become a habitation people, where He comes to live in us and dwell in us and be one with us. And so that just elevates the game.
I love that. If you ask anybody, you want to be the best, but are you willing to pay the price?
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So can you lay your life down and say, Jesus, I'm yours?
And because I see a lot of people, and this, we were all there. I was there, where it was all selfishness. Me, right?
Yeah.
Life's simple pleasures. I still see it. I see parents that are more concerned with their own simple pleasures of going out, going to the bar, drinking. They'll make time for that, but they won't make time for their kid. I'm seeing this. It drives me nuts. But then I realize how big of a role what my role is, not just as a coach, but as their father figure. Not their heavenly father, but their earthly father, a earthly father figure for them,
right?
That they're lacking.
Right.
Get into that. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but we're on a good flow here. Meaning, because as a coach, you realized, like you said before, what your parents did for you and what that led to of you coaching. Talk to me about some coaching stuff, what you have come into contact with, of how important your role channeling with the Father into these being earthly father figures to your students and to your athletes.
Yeah. Just staying on the father part, because that's there's no greater thing than that as a coach. I mean, you're coaching your family, right? And I remember the day our oldest son was starting school, and so it's a big deal. We want to make that a big deal,
right?
And I remember getting around and praying with the whole family on that whole big day, and my wife's looking at me like, oh, I got to say something profound, like, okay, on the spot, praying something profound. And I felt like the Lord gave this to me. And it was, hey, Quinn, their oldest son, I said, know who you are, know whose you are, and know who you represent. And so whenever they went out the door, all three kids, when they're going out on a Friday night or whatever it might be, it's like, hey, know who you are, know whose you are, and who you represent. And so that became kind of one of the family mantras that we continually come back to.
Yep.
Is you got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And you're gonna experience things. They're gonna challenge you, challenge who you are, all the time. And if you're grounded, right, in the source, then He's gonna remind you who you are.
Oh yeah.
And He's gonna remind you whose you are, right, who you belong to. And then who you represent is really. You're representing more than just you.
Right.
You're representing the Father. You're representing your family.
Yeah.
You're representing, a team that you may be playing for. Yeah. You're representing yourself. It's how do you want your people to see you? How do you want to come across? And so, who you represent, is a nice finishing touch to all that.
Yeah, I love that because if that doesn't drive you, you know what I mean, to be great at whatever you're doing, to do to give your best effort, because you're representing, right? I always say to my kids, remember, we're representing here. When you're out on that track, when you're on the field, you're representing,
awesome.
Right? So get into so let's go back. We got into high school. We were in high school. You you got drafted because they saw you in track.
Yes, yeah, recruited.
That's right. To Purdue.
Oh, no, I coached
Arizona.
Purdue.
Okay, Arizona.
Went to University of
Arizona. Okay, so tell me how that went.
It went great for the time that lasted.
Okay.
So, I went there as an undersized linebacker. By the end of my first year, working out and blowing up, I went from that 185. I was about 190 by the time I got to U of A. And, by the end of my redshirt year, now I'm 225, but I've already switched me to safety.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm like one of the biggest safeties in the Pac-10.
Right.
It was Pac-10 at the time. And so, so I kind of saw myself as a linebacker still, but I was playing in the secondary with a whole lot of space to accelerate and run into people.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was I couldn't play today because it was all. I was just, if I was a step slow, I'd count on my ability to blow things up.
Yeah.
And through contact. So I was kind of known as a heavy hitter, and that involved my head.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having 13 concussions.
Wow.
In the first couple of years in college.
13.
Well, those were the ones that they knew about, because there's some I wouldn't, because I kept having concussions. I wouldn't say anything because I knew either they were going to take me out or not let me practice or so.
Wow.
So yeah, there was a lot of stuff, and finally it's just they wouldn't let me play anymore. So it was, I had to they call it medically retire now, but it was, I just had to stop playing.
And this is in college.
This was in college.
So you made it 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
Two
so
seasons.
The guy that I played behind ended up going on and getting drafted. Played 9 years with the Browns. The guy that came behind me, so I was ready to jump in, be the starter, all
Yeah.
that stuff. The guy that came behind me took my place, ended up playing like 8 years in the NFL, all pro, a couple of those. So I was kind of sandwiched in between those guys, but that was a tough one. That was a kind of an end of a dream. Went through a transition period. I guess, what am I going to do?
Yeah. All right. So now, God, because there's so many areas I want to dig in here, and we're going to. But talk to me about what did you do to get through that? Because that's at this point, your identity.
Oh yeah.
Is this incredible football player, the assassin on the field? I can tell you're the heavy hitter, right?
Yeah.
What did that do to your psychology? What did that do to your mind?
Yeah.
That's
a great question. Because as I mentioned before, I found my value on the football field.
Right.
That's where, hey, people can say whatever they want to say about, my eyes or whatever, but, hey, I'm going to come blow you up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, so that was the place I found value. So when that all came to an end, I thought, hey, for sure I'm going to play NFL. That was, I'm going to have this long NFL career, and then I'm going to, go into broadcasting. I was, studying, radio, television at the time. And so all of it comes to a screeching halt. And
they made you, so they said, "Hey, enough's enough. You can't do another concussion."
Yeah, I remember the last practice, and I just, I knew I got to ding myself. Had a concussion, kind of standing off the side on the sideline, and the team doctors came up and said, "Hey, are you done? This is it." Because he'd been saying that before, but I kept, pushing it, coming back, and I'm like, yeah, I think I am.
This is in practice.
This was in practice, and it was in spring. It was in spring ball, actually, in spring practice. It was a rainy day in Arizona, which is pretty rare. And I remember just walking off the field for the last time.
You knew it.
I knew it. I knew this was it. And I remember walking to my locker. I remember peeling the name off my locker. And just leaving all my stuff in there and just walking out.
And so were the coaches like, they knew it was coming? Was everybody just waiting for this moment? Like,
they knew I was, continuing to try, and they knew how important it was to me, and I think I was a contributor. So
yeah, I was going to say, you're still effective on the field, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And so they knew the talent, but this was the situation, and so talked with them afterwards, and just all I can do is wish you best of luck, right? But
how did that feel?
Yeah, it was devastating. It really was, and I went through a period of, hey, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that season.
What'd your parents say, by the way? What were your parents saying leading up to this? When the concussion number 9, were they like, "Listen, Tim"?
Yeah, I mean, all along they were like, it was my health that was most important, and I was an adult, so it's like, they were giving me the advice of, hey, just make sure your health comes most important for anything. So, I think they got to, like, even before concussion 9, it's like, hey, don't feel like you're doing this for us, or this. I mean, this is your decision, but we want you to be here. Yeah. And this was way before, like, we knew all the things about concussion and all that stuff. So
I remember I had several, and it was just like, I didn't even tell anybody.
Yeah. And really I had one in baseball, actually, my sophomore year in high school, and just never really gave it time for my brain to recover. I went from, just a couple months later after baseball right into football practice, and had a couple my junior.
Did you get one in baseball too?
My first one was in baseball.
From what, a ball in the head?
Yeah, I was a catcher and was blocking the plate and got a throw from outfield, went to turn to make the tag, and the guy, was blocking the plate, so he knew he wasn't going to run me over. So he tried to jump, and when he jumped, his knee hit me right in the temple, right when I turned. Bam.
Did you get knocked out?
Completely knocked out. The ball landed on my chest protector. So he was out.
He was out.
Yeah. But I was out too.
Yeah.
It's like, but it had a big old,
Wow.
a bunch of bubble gum in my mouth and drooling, and yeah, knocked me out cold. In fact, I didn't really, even though I was up
That
and
was your
walking
first
around,
one.
that was my first one. I didn't really wake up until the next morning. I thought it was a dream.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I asked my mom, did I like get knocked
Were you in the
out?
hospital?
No, I was at home. But I was walking
Did
around
you play?
fine.
You didn't play the rest of the game. You were out.
Yeah, I went out, and I remember driving home with my dad, and who was there, and asking what happened. He'd tell me what happened. I said, what happened? And he said, tell me again, and he's like, something's a little off,
Wow.
So they just kind of kept an eye on me, and I seemed like I was fine,
Yeah.
but I really wasn't fully awake. I was walking around. I remember saying things, but I like the lights weren't on yet till I woke up. But I thought it was a dream, and my mom's like, okay, that's it. You're going to the doctor. So that was my first one. But so I never really recovered after that. It was just, I just went one season and the next season, and just kind of kept multiplying.
And okay, so after this, when you had to call it quits, keep going with that.
Yeah. So
You didn't know what you were going to do. What?
yeah. So
What'd your parents say to you at that point? What kind of advice?
Yeah, that was good. They said, hey, you've always have been a multifaceted kid. You did all the different sports you did. I played in the jazz band. I was a musician. So there's just them saying there's a lot you can do other than football, right?
Right.
Or there's even options in football. And I'm like, okay, great. My uncle was a college and professional football coach. He was actually good friends with Bud Grant, who was the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, a big legendary coach. And so I remember being at different occasions growing up where Bud Grant would be there, family occasions. So I kind of had this connection with him, and I started thinking about, maybe coaching might be the thing. And in that time, I really, hunkered into my faith and like seeking God, like, what do you want me to do? What else is there? What else do you have for me? And that next season, I remember going to the football games that I should have been playing in, and cheering on my friends and ex-teammates, and they were playing Colorado, who had a new coach. His name was Bill McCartney. And in the paper, like I think it was like a Thursday night before the Saturday game, there's this article about Bill McCartney, and he's talking about coaching as a calling, and God's called him to be a coach and to mentor young men and to be a representative of Christ. And I'm like, wow, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the inspiration for me to start coaching. So I started doing that right away. While I was finishing my degree, I was coaching high school at the
So would you reach out to high school, or would
I
you?
reached out to my high school coach, who I had a great relationship with, and I said, hey, I think I'm being called to coaching. So, okay, well, start coaching with me right away.
Right away.
It was right in the middle of the season. So I started coaching, and hadn't stopped since.
Oh man. So think back, dude. Think back. Like, what if you had gone on? I mean, we can't even speculate what would have happened, not only health wise, but your calling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, my dream obviously was to play in the NFL. Through coaching, I've had 39 players that I've coached over the years become NFL players. Right. I've had.
How great is this?
I know.
Come on.
It's a God thing. I mean, I've had, I think it's 56 or something like that, kids that I've coached in high school that have gone on to Division I scholarships. And then come in full circle, just last year, there's this kid from San Diego, from Carlsbad, that became the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And I coached that kid in high school, Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell.
So, yeah, I won the Super Bowl with the Rams. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams, right? And then got the head job at my Vikings. So it's been amazing to see the lives that I've been able to impact through coaching, go on and achieve so much more than I would have.
Well, we can dive right into this in so many areas, bro, because it's so profound when you think about it.
So blessed, man.
Because when we do things that are more for ourselves, because let's be honest, going to the NFL, that was for you, your dream, you this, that, and yes, it would have set your family up financially, but how many people would you have impacted that way, as opposed to going this route when God said, no, hold on a second, right?
Yeah.
And then because the route you went, you coach, and as you said, 39 in the NFL, 50-something Division I scholarships, right?
Right.
It's unbelievable when you think about it.
Completely.
So talk about this, how profound it is that your life, like as a person and as a family, that you guys didn't just pull the victim card, give up, go into depression, woe is me, right?
Yeah.
But you instead veered off. Talk about that. Talk about how profound that is.
Yeah, that during that time after I walked off the field for the last time, that was that easily could have gone that way.
Right.
And it was a struggle. It was like, hey, God, I really want to know, what's my purpose in life? Why am I here? And I think it's good to go through that, soul searching time. Because God meets you there.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah.
And it just, okay, if I can't reach that dream, then I can help others do that. That was really in my heart. And it wasn't until actually years later that I'm worshiping in church and Awaken.
Yeah. This
was, a few years after starting at Awaken. And I'm in worship, and it was a song called "Champion of Heaven," and I just felt Holy Spirit say, when you're the champion of heaven, what do you have left to champion?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
You're the champion of heaven. What else do you have left to champion?
Yeah.
And then just that voice just said, I don't. I make champions.
Love it.
And so that's really what coaching is, hey, you're there to make champions.
And how important is it for watchers and listeners, what you went to when they go through something really, a life-altering event, how important is them to have faith that it's happening for a reason?
Yeah.
How important is it for them to not give up, or to realize that, I've heard this recently that, well, I've heard it my whole life, but recently somebody said it and it's stamped in. Like, you'll find your new self when you go through something like a really rough time.
Yeah.
See what you're made of.
Yeah.
You're going to find your new Tim. I find my new JD when I went through this thing that I went through, right?
Yes.
You found your new Tim. I mean, you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
But the new version of you.
Yeah. I mean, you realize just how much more God has for you, right? That, when he says, all things are possible, you can believe that.
Right.
He has everything for you. It's just a matter of us being able to, ask, seek, right? And knock.
Yeah, and knock.
Right? Ask, seek, and knock, right? And so when you do that, you keep doing that, ask, and it'll be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open unto you.
Yeah.
And so that's the process. I mean, if you keep doing that, just that's an acronym. It's ask, seek, knock.
I love that.
Right? And just keep doing that.
Keep doing it.
Just keep doing that. And it produces a fruit in your life. It produces a steadiness in your life, and you discover. That's what growing is all about.
And it gives you purpose.
Discovering the more God has for you.
Ask, seek, and knock. Just keep repeating that your whole life.
That's it.
Right? Everything that happens.
Ask.
Keep it going.
Yeah. Who do you ask?
Yeah. God.
Go to the source.
I love it. All right. So when did you know that coaching was your calling? How fast did you realize? What moment happened in your coaching career, in high school, whatever it was, did you realize, okay, God, I got you.
Yeah.
You're right. This is my calling. When did you know?
Yeah, I think when I was coaching, the high school I played at with my high school coach, he always would describe me when I was playing as a coach on the field. Like he would always direct things, say things to me, and I'd, like able to get my teammates to do it. And so when I was coaching with him, I could tell he was doing the same thing in a way, but I was able to have even more of an impact. And so it was just like a realization. I knew the game instinctually at a higher level.
Yeah.
Right? It was just like I was able to see things and respond to things and understand things differently. And so I said, okay, I think I want to, since my college playing career was cut short, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to be. And so that's what I set out to do. And, within, just 2 years, I'm coaching at my first college job.
Did they come get you, or did you put the feelers out there? How did that work?
I took as I'm studying exercise sports sciences, and coaching was part of that my undergraduate degree. We take different types of classes on how to coach certain sports.
Wow.
Right? So, and you got to take a variety of different courses because, you're ultimately you're going to be a PE teacher, or you're going to maybe teaching at the public schools or private schools or whatever. So you take a variety of different classes, but one of the classes I took was a theory of coaching football class.
Huh.
And it was taught by a legendary coach. In fact, the state football championship trophy is named after him, Coach Doherty, in Arizona. And he was the teacher of the class. He was retired, but he was still an athletic director at a local high school. And I remember
That's not the one that inspired you to coach, was it?
Well, he
is that the same name?
No, it was a different guy. It was a different guy.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The one that said he was called by God to coach?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's Coach McCartney.
Okay.
Bill McCartney.
Okay, got it.
So Coach Doherty was a different guy.
Got it.
And so, I knew he's this legendary coach. So I just taking notes in class and just doing anything and everything, just living off every word this guy spoke. I mean, he's a guy he taught offensive philosophy to Vince Lombardi. He was the head coach. Coach Doherty was the head coach at Holy Cross, and Vince Lombardi came to understand his offensive concepts and all that kind of stuff. Obviously know where that led.
Right.
Coach Lombardi, right?
Yeah.
So he just had this legendary status, and I just learned so much from him, and everything, all the notes we took, everything we had, he had us make a program, our own notebook, and we had to turn it in at the end of the semester, and he was going to grade it. And I remember he gave me mine back, and on the top he said, "Tim, this is just absolutely excellent." He goes, "Could you come and see me?" So I went and saw him, and he said, "Would you like to come and coach at my high school?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I did my student teaching there, coached there, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I think I want to be a head college coach."
And this class was after you were coaching high school.
I was coaching high school at where I played high school.
Correct. Yep.
He was at a different high school.
Got it.
Same area, but different high school. but he was also teaching this theory of coaching football class at the university, right?
Wow.
So I said, yeah, I'd love to coach for you. So I went and coached for him, and he just lived in his office.
What did you write that stood out so much?
I just think it was like every word he said, really. I was kind of just writing, putting my own like
little twist on
thoughts on it,
yeah.
And impressions on it. And
give me the overlying, like, because I want to dig further into the actual coach, the way that you coached, the way that you've impacted kids. What was the overlying premise of what his coaching was all about and what you were in that?
Yeah, that is all about being the best.
Being the best.
Being the best. And we even talked about that earlier.
Right.
Right? And I think that's where the concept of anybody can tell you about wanting to be the best, but are they willing to pay the price? And I think that class was, I was willing to write down everything and put my own, thoughts in it and just put everything into that just to learn the most that I could so I could be the best.
Yeah.
And I think he got that impression, and we developed just a great relationship all the time I was coaching with him. And when he asked me what I wanted to do, I said, well, I think I want to coach college football. He picks up the phone. He calls the head football coach at NAU who played for him before.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Lazo, he calls him Lazo, his nickname. He said, I got a guy here you need to hire. And he starts telling him about me.
Yeah.
And, within a few days, I'm up in an interview and 4-hour drive up to Flagstaff. And that was my first college coaching job.
And so the interview obviously went well.
That went well.
And he said, all right, did he hire you on the spot, or did he say, like, hold on, I'll get back to you?
I said, no, you got to interview now with the defensive coordinator.
Oh.
So I went and interviewed with the defensive coordinator for 2 hours, going to X's and O's and doing all that kind of stuff. And eventually.
And what level of coach did you start at? Like, what kind of coach were you at first? Defensive backs?
Yeah, so I coached the safeties.
You coached the safeties.
I was hired to be a coach of the safeties. It was what they called it a restricted earnings position. So it wasn't for the money. It was just, hey, this is my shot. This is my opportunity.
All right, talk about that. Because a lot of people won't do stuff unless they're being paid, like a lot of money.
Yeah,
like when it's your calling.
Yeah, no, it didn't matter about the money. It was all about, hey, and I was that wasn't the only play. I was applying all over the place for, college football. That's a tough nut to crack.
Really tough.
Okay, so this doesn't happen, unless somebody's opening those doors.
Yeah,
right?
It makes a phone
call. I was
call.
knocking.
Go back on this, and I want you to retrace the steps and really dig in here, like how important it was, because you made an impression on this guy, right? Yeah. And it all happened because of the impression that you made. This is going all the way back, Tim.
Yeah.
To how you conducted yourself as a player.
Mm-hmm.
This is how far back this goes. You realize this?
Yeah.
Because the way you carried yourself as a player, as a player's coach, the coach categorized you as like a player coach.
Yeah.
Because they saw that in you. Where did that come from? Like, how were you a leader on the field? Where did that trait come from? Because you were a leader and could get the guys to do whatever you wanted on the field as a player.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To have that much mutual respect from your peers, right? We're going all the way back here. Otherwise, you never would have gotten these opportunities. It started when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think because of, the place of value, of place of belonging, I just had a love for the game that was, different.
Yeah.
And I think, guys I played with, they recognize the different level of intensity, the passion that went into it, the way we went about it, and so, I think that has a big impact.
Yeah,
right. And
absolutely.
I think, from my high school coach that saw that, from my, time with Coach Doherty that saw a difference that said, okay, I need to pick up the phone and call my guy.
Yeah.
NAU.
That's what I'm saying.
Get him going. So
Where does that come from? Can you teach that?
I think it's again, connection to the source, man.
Come on.
It's I'm tapped in.
And you tapped in early.
I tapped in early to a life that, said all things are possible. And I wasn't going to agree there were limitations.
From very early on.
From very early on. So even when I couldn't play anymore, right?
Yeah.
It was, well, no, there's other things. There's additional impact. There's, other avenues you can pursue. You're not just regulated to this one thing.
Right.
God's bigger than all of it. He can make a way where there's no way.
Yes. Listen up, folks. Listen up. And this all starts with, because not a lot of young kids are watching or listening to this, but there's going to be, I actually have some 20-year-olds that are listening to this.
Awesome.
But the parents this is for, because it starts with the way that you support your child on the field. Look at Tim here. The support of his parents at every game is the reason, one of the main reasons, obviously your connection to the source, of course, Tim, not discounting that at all. But your parents supporting you.
Yeah.
It's where it all started.
Yeah.
Right?
But again, it's that foundation of faith.
Yes.
That they provided. Right?
They provided.
So it's like, even though they're the ones present, they're also the ones saying, hey, your faith is the most important thing.
Wow. And that's the way they raised you. That's the way
they raised me.
That's what the whole childhood listen to this, folks. Listen, parents, listen up. All right, keep going. Now we're going to go into some coaching stories. Give me some heartfelt stories. Whether it's high school, college, give me some actual stories of kids that you personally coached that had it so rough, either a household, a rough childhood, had no prayer of going anywhere, and the impact that you made is that you realized that you were their father figure. Do you have any stories like this? Well, I'm sure you have a million.
Well, yeah.
Give me some impacting ones that just touched your heart, knowing that, man, this was good stuff.
Yeah. So I remember coaching at Purdue, which Purdue is in Indiana. It's a couple hours south of Chicago, the region, and about an hour north of Indianapolis. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but
right.
Great school, phenomenal people. And we would all, on the coaching staff, have different recruiting areas. And so I was able to recruit areas of Chicago. And I remember going into the projects in Chicago. And, normally I remember going to the high school first and talking to the coach about, hey, which kids are, standing out, which kids need to be recruited, and all, asking them about, hey, I've heard about these kids, and, real deal talk. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily go to those places.
Right.
Unless you were, quote, a salt and pepper team.
Right.
It's like there was a black coach from your school, and you'd go as a white coach.
Yep.
You'd go in together.
Yes.
To go salt and pepper team. And you'd go and recruit just because the areas are that bad. But I just said, hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
And I remember the coach saying, hey, who's with you? And I was like, it's just me. And he's like, really? He goes, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to. He's like, well, I advise against it. And I was like, well, I know who's looking out for me. So he's like, okay. So now he knows I'm going to go make home visits, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going into Cabrini Green, which is, notorious projects in all of Chicago. Right?
Yeah.
And that's actually Andre Johnson. I recruited him.
You recruited
when
him?
He was in Chicago. Yeah. I don't know if you know Andre.
Of course.
But shout out to Andre.
Andre.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Love it, even though he didn't come to Purdue. He went to Minnesota. But I remember making a home visit, talk about one of these kids, that during the home visit, the apartment next door is all bombed out, right? He invites me in. It's a 1-bedroom apartment, and him and 2 other brothers and his mom. And the kid shows me his area of the closet. Like this is what he wants to show me. You know, all the house is, you know, kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Or the apartment's a mess. But he wanted specifically show me his area of the closet. And he opens the door. He's got everything all organized, all of his stuff lined up. He built like little shelves for things. And that's what he was proud of. He's like, hey, you know, like this is who I am in the midst of like all this.
Yeah, kind of chaos.
Ridiculous circumstances, right? The kid got a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken so he could eat.
Wow.
And as a senior in high school, he's an assistant manager, right? So I go and talk to, you know, the manager of the KFC, right? Find out more about this kid. And it's just like, man, this kid was just on a different level. And, you know, it's like, man, you know, it was almost like, I don't want to watch the video because if he can't play football, I can't offer him a scholarship.
Right.
You know, but I'm rooting for this kid. Such an amazing kid. And then, you know, I turn the video on and the kid could play, you know, and then it gets down to, okay, now I gotta look at his transcripts. Does he have the grades, you know? And the kid was, you know, an A+ student. I mean, it's like, wow, you know, to look at where he's from and all the surroundings that he's in and to know that this kid was that focused, that directed on something different to do with his life. You know, he came to Purdue and it didn't really stand out as a player, but the guy ends up with a degree. You know, he's a professional. His whole life is different. You know, he's raising his kids, you know, out of that area in a wonderful place.
Do you know him to this day?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him for a long time, but yeah.
Do you remember the name?
D'Artagnan Sanders.
D'Artagnan Sanders, big shout out, bro. Big ups, man.
Huge. So
tell me,
that's what I'm saying. God can do anything.
Talk on this, though. Talk on this learning lesson right here. What that shows. Because I got a lot of people that blame their circumstances.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying?
He had every reason to blame
every reason.
circumstances.
But what set him apart? And look at how far he went.
Yeah.
It's doable.
It's doable.
Even in those circumstances.
I mean, the kid, you know, would have to fight his way home sometimes from, you know, get off late at KFC. But, you know, they kind of knew his story and knew he was going places. And so, you know, the gangs kind of started cheering him on after a while. Like,
wow.
Okay, you know, all right, we'll leave you alone. I got you. You're doing something else. So they even recognized it. So it's just like God can penetrate.
How was his faith? Was he deep in his faith?
Yeah. That was everything. That's all. I mean, it's really all he had.
It's all he had.
All he had. It's all he needed.
Wow. So how was your relationship with him like when you were coaching him? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, he played it different, but he was a running back.
Okay.
You know, but so I didn't get a chance to coach him directly. But he was one of those fire plug guys who would just kind of initiate positivity, kind of no matter where he went.
Yeah.
He was always, you know, getting himself up and getting others people up around him.
Oh yeah.
You know, he'd never seen a cornfield before, right? Never been out of projects in Chicago. You know, and we go, you know, we're going, staying in the nicest hotels on road trips and eating the best food and doing it. It was in a whole different world, right? Never seen so many white people in all his life in the cornfields in, you know, Indiana.
Wow.
Go to Purdue.
What a story, dude.
But you know what? He just rolled with it, learned, grew, was himself, knew who he was.
And whose he was and who he was representing. He was, ask?
He's asking, seeking, and knocking.
He was asking, seeking, and knocking. That's right. He's a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
All right, give me another story. Keep going. Give me another one that was just impactful. College.
Wow.
Give me another coaching experience you had that was.
I mentioned to you earlier about interviewing with Coach Ditka.
Talk about
that was a crazy story. But I remember,
how did that happen?
Well, the Chicago Bears have a coaching clinic. So, and in the Midwest, it's like, everybody comes together for the Chicago Bears clinic. So you get all these like 5,000 coaches that come from around the Midwest to go and hear different college speakers and pro speakers talk about different aspects of football. And so I was fortunate enough to talk about secondary play and nickel and dime substitution and personnel packages and all this kind of stuff. And after the talk, I'm walking past like this hallway, and I hear this, "Hey kid," and and then I'm looking around and look down the hallway, and I see this like bright orange thing just go.
Cigar.
Yeah,
cigar.
It's a cigar. He's at the end of the hallway with this door. He's blowing the smoke out the door, and it's Coach Ditka. I'm like, "Oh, hey, Coach," and he goes, "That's some good shit."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it." And he said, "Like, talk to you more about it." He goes, so he gives me a card of his secretary.
Yeah.
He said, "Give her a call on Monday and we can schedule time to you and I sit down." I'm like, "Fantastic. I'll be there." So Monday, I'm like rolling around all weekend. Like Monday morning rolls around, I call her up. I say, "Hey, Coach gave me the card to call you about coming and see it." She goes, "Is this for the interview?" And I'm like, "Yes." Yes, that's for the interview. So not really knowing if it was for an interview.
Yeah.
But so I went up, and they're looking to hire a secondary coach. And so we sit down, we start talking, started getting on the board, starts going through stuff. Some of these head coaches are kind of more figurehead in a way.
Yeah.
Coach Ditka, he knew football like at a very different level, all aspects of it. So his technical aspect of the game, I think, kind of gets lost in the overall character of who he is.
Right.
And
big character.
Yeah, big character. And I remember, just being kind of, wow, he really knows football. He's really challenging me on stuff and asking me questions and going through stuff. And what if he did this? What if he did this? What if he do? What if he do? Go in motion. What if he do? What's the adjustment? All that stuff, right? And afterwards, he's like, "Hey, great job, great job." And then he said, "I'd love to hire your kid." He goes, "But Hal's family, who owned the Bears at the time," he goes, they, there's a big push for me to hire a black coach."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, he goes, "But, it's my decision, right?" So I'm like, "Okay." But, and he said, "Well," he goes, "at the very least, we can have you back here for, during the summer, and you can work with, our athletes during training camp and all that while you're waiting for your season to start." And I said, "That's great." And he said, "But I'll let you know." Didn't hire me.
Yeah.
Ended up going in a different direction.
Yep.
And hiring a minority coach, which is as a white guy playing in the secondary and coaching in the secondary. I experienced that a lot.
Yep.
But it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just going through that process. Ended up being the last year of his contract, which wasn't renewed. And then he went on and ended up coaching the Saints. So if I would have gotten that job, I'd been there for a number of months, a few months, right?
Right.
And then I would have gone to New Orleans, or would have gone, other places, or but I was able to stay at Purdue and
wow,
further my career that way. But
and so, were you able to help out with their practice squad or anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was able to be involved during the summer, and be around Mike Singletary and all those
Singletary,
those Dent and all those guys are just amazing.
That was what year was this now?
This would have been probably 92.
Oh, 92.
92,
Okay.
93, 92, 3, right in there.
Wow. Was McMahon there? Was it McMahon? Was he?
No,
That
he
was in the 80s.
Yeah, that was mid 85 Bears was the
Okay,
big,
85,
the big team.
yeah.
But he was out by then.
All right, so give me some more some of your athlete stories. One that just made all the difference in the world for what you were doing, that was your calling and impacting the world in a positive way. Something an impact you had on one of your athletes along the way or students.
One of the funniest things was so years ago, like teaching PE, right?
Yeah.
We would teach pickleball, which was not it was a popular thing. People,
Nah.
you do what? What's that?
Huh?
What's pickleball? And it really hadn't gained much popularity at all.
Right.
But it was a great game to teach racket sports, hand-eye coordination, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And teaching PE. So I would teach pickleball. And I remember this one kid, doing it and just kind of getting really excited about it. Okay, this is awesome. And so, he would want to come at lunch and hit against the wall and it's just to see this growing passion for this game of pickleball, right? So that started in 7th grade, and by high school he was playing in tournaments, and then I think it was when he was 20, he won the national championship. They started having these national tournaments in Palm Springs, and he won the national tournament in Palm Springs, and I'm just looking back and that. Obviously, pickleball wasn't my thing,
Right.
But it was his thing. He discovered, right? And I just was able to help kind of fan the flame, right? But the kid went on and became a national champion in pickleball, and I don't know what he's doing today. He's probably teaching pickleball and still competing.
How long has pickleball been around? I just started hearing about this a few years ago.
Yeah, so pickleball started by a couple of brothers up in Bainbridge Island, Washington, right? Who took a wiffle ball and started hitting it back and forth with ping pong paddles, and was just hitting it. And then they eventually got into a tennis court, right? And figured out, okay, well, with the bigger court, we kind of need a little bigger paddles, so they kind of made some bigger ping pong paddles somehow, right?
Yeah.
And then, but they had this dog, golden retriever, named Pickle.
Come on.
Seriously, it's a true story. Google it, right? So whenever they'd say, Pickle, ball, Pickle would go and get the ball and bring it back.
You're
Right?
kidding me.
And so when it came down to naming the game, they called it pickleball.
That's how it got named?
That's how it got started.
I never knew this. And this is becoming extremely popular sport now.
Yeah, so
because older people can play.
Yeah. You should see the retirees, man, out there just crushing it.
Yeah.
Don't ever get suckered into playing some older person pickleball, because you'll get humiliated.
They're legit.
They're seriously legit.
All right. So, okay. Now, let's go to where you got to Awaken Church.
Okay.
How did you get there? How did you find it? Or no, how did you get to San Diego?
So that's a good question. So my wife and I were at Purdue. We were wanting to start a family. And
Okay, so you met your wife at Purdue.
No, I met my wife. I had graduated from University of Arizona. She was still going there. I was at my first college job at NAU, which is 4 hours away. We had a bye in our schedule. So Arizona was playing Washington, who was the number one rated team in the country at the time, and we had a bye in our schedule, and all my friends are going to be at that game. So they're saying, "Hey, come on down, come on." So I went down and went out the night before and met my wife at a bar.
Yeah.
At closing time.
Oh, yeah? Closing time.
Last call. Met my wife. And
Unbelievable.
she was looking for her friend, and I said, "I'll help you look for your friend." And I grabbed her hand and have held it ever since.
No way.
Yeah.
How many years ago was that?
It'll be 35 years ago.
35.
Yeah.
Wow.
35 years ago coming up. We'll be married for 30 years on this month.
Wow. All right. So
26th.
Incredible. All right. So go back. How did we get on that? Yeah. Sorry.
So I
How
met
did you
my
get to
wife
San Diego?
there.
Yeah.
We had, we're together, married at Purdue.
Yep.
And then when we decided we wanted to start a family, we were looking at the coaching lifestyle and the college coaching level, the professional level. You're moving around. It's a nomadic lifestyle. You're moving around all over the place. You don't know where your next job is going to be.
Yep.
If you do really well, you may end up at another school. Your head coach may move up and you go with him. If you don't do well, you get fired and then you're scrambling to find a position somewhere else. And so we were looking at some of the older coaches that had families and I guess, what's their life like? What's the fruit of their life? How are they living? And, we decided together that, hey, I could become a head high school coach and still feel like I have that coaching calling being fulfilled.
Right.
And then we can stay in one place and raise our family and have that stable family, foundation. And so that's exactly what we did.
And so how's San Diego? How did you get here?
So I just asked my wife, hey, where do you want to live? Because she, living in Indiana is a little harsh for her.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, hey, where do you want to go? So, west, back to the West Coast in San Diego was like the first interview, actually. I had a bunch of them set up throughout Southern California and Arizona, Texas. But
for high school coaching?
For high school coaching.
And so who was here in San Diego? Did you have somebody here that you knew? Like, how did you pick San Diego?
It was just one of those God things. My best friend in coaching, which is another crazy story. He's the head coach at Syracuse now. But we had coached together at NAU. We coached together at Purdue. He was one of the reasons how I got my job at Purdue. He had left Purdue to go coach at San Diego State. And he was talking to his college roommate that he played with that was an assistant principal at a high school. And he just happened to say, hey, do you know anybody that wants to be a head high school coach? Because we have an opening for a head football coach. And Dino, my buddy, knew that I was, considering making this jump. And so he said, yeah. He goes, my best friend, call Tim and see if he's interested. So he called me. I faxed in, fax, yeah. Faxed in my application on the last day it was open. The job was open. I was in an interview 2 days later, and I'm standing on the lifeguard station at Moonlight Beach, waiting for my interview to happen. I chose to go last. I wanted to go last. And so I'm kind of looking through real estate ads and, in the newspaper. This is when newspapers were a thing. This was 1994. And just was at Moonlight Beach, and my mom had just recently passed away. And so, and that was kind of part of one of the reasons why I wanted to make that change, to in lifestyle, coaching lifestyle.
Yep.
And so I was just kind of standing at the lifeguard station, Moonlight Beach, and it was kind of a partly cloudy day, kind of like a lot it is right now in San Diego, and the sun just kind of broke through the clouds, just kind of shimmered up the water and just like surrounded me around the lifeguard station. And I just felt this warmth and this peace. And it was like God saying, hey, this is the place.
This is it.
I mean, it was just like, wow. And so, so I went and crushed the interview, and we were here.
How far into the interview were they like, all right, that's it, we're done?
Well, I went through the whole interview, and they said, they'll
let you know.
They'll let you know and contact me, and then, within a few hours, they called me and said,
oh, they did?
You're the guy, yeah.
A few hours?
Yeah.
How many other applicants were there?
I think they interviewed 8.
8?
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow. So how did the team receive you when you came in? Because you're a new coach.
Yeah. So, I mean, you usually don't get a college coach coming back to high school, right? It usually kind of goes the other way. But
yeah.
So, I you can only work with what you have, right?
Yes.
In high school. So it's whoever's going to the school.
Yes.
And then the coaching staff, they're teachers usually, right? So you gotta, I gotta coach them how to coach at a higher level. So I wanted to run our high school program like a college program, right?
Yeah. What was the record when you came in?
They had won for like 11 years.
Like they'd had a positive season. Is that what you mean by winning?
Exactly. And
so they were sub 500 for.
Oh yeah, and I think the year before they were 2 and something. Right.
Oh boy.
And
you knew this.
Yeah, I knew this. Well, okay, we'll just change the culture, right? We'll just make it happen.
Yeah.
And I could see La Costa Canyon was being built at the time, and so this was at San Diego High School. It was before it was an academy, and so there wasn't a new school yet. But I went to the new school during it.
What high school was this?
San Diego High School.
Okay, that was a high. Okay,
but La Costa Canyon wasn't even called that. It was just the new school.
Yeah,
it was being built. So I went out and toured the new school while they were building it and thought, wow, this could really be something. I could see the communities that were being built around it, and I could see this being a hub of the community, and bringing people together and celebrating, their kids and, being a part of their life, right? And being a part of this community. And so that's where I kind of got the vision at this new school, but I knew I was going to have to take over this, old school that was going to be coming to an end that hadn't been very successful. And when I got on campus, it was, I'd see these big, tall, lean looking athletes that were playing like volleyball and basketball. And it was like nobody was playing football. So that was the start. It was, okay, I gotta change the culture and make this important, that they can be successful. And so,
did you start recruiting or?
I did. I was actively recruiting on campus and telling, hey, just come out, just try it. Just give it a shot. Come out for spring ball.
Were they like okay or
They were kind of at first, but I just wouldn't give up. I kept seeing them, kept talking to them, kept going, hey, come on out. And then convincing the players I had, hey, this can be different, but we got to get more people involved, right? Get your friends involved, get them out. And so we had a number of guys that came out that were new.
Was there any specific dude that had a lot of pull? Like if you got this one guy, he's a great basketball player, he's a great volleyball player. If you can get him,
we had this one kid, big kid, wasn't doing anything, but he's a big kid. His name was Trevor Crabtree. Remember his name? And I was just like, man, if I can get him out and just get him to like it.
Yeah.
This guy could do some damage, right? And so he came out, and I was just pumping him up, hey, you can do this, you can become this, you can, just be speaking life into him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have anything going on.
Nothing.
But he was built for this.
Yes.
So you got to convince him, hey, you're built for this. And so he came out, and a bunch of other kind of bigger dudes that weren't doing anything started coming out, and we came one game away from winning the CIF championship.
The first season?
We lost to Ricky Williams. Remember that kid?
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
We lost to Ricky Williams' Patrick Henry team by 1 point in the semifinals.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
This was the first season you took over?
Season, yeah.
Was everybody all riled up or what?
Yeah, it went crazy. Yeah,
It
changed the whole culture.
So talk to me about the kids that weren't doing anything. That's the parents.
Yeah, see, that's a really good
the
key.
Parents.
That's a great point, because most of the kids that weren't doing anything, their parents weren't involved in their life.
Aha.
So it gets back to that. Hey, how involved how supportive are you? How, do your parents really care enough to support what you're passionate about? And I remember, with Trevor, like on our senior night, because he only played football for 1 year. It was his senior year. Remember on senior night,
the big kid.
His mom came and just bawling to walk out with her son and realizing how much her son had done in just a short time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big.
This was the big kid that you went after.
Yeah.
And you spoke life into him.
Spoke life into him.
Wow.
Get to me.
And she was proud.
She was proud. That could have been the first proud moment she ever communicated to her son.
Where was the dad?
He wasn't involved. Wasn't around.
And this was just you walking around campus. You saw this big dude and said, hey. And then you spoke life into him.
There you go.
I'd love to...
Give him a chance. Give him an opportunity.
Wow.
Just give it a try. Just see if you like it. If you try it, I know you'll like it.
So that night, were you emotional that night as well? Like when you saw this? When you saw Mom?
I just giving them all both a hug and sending them off. And
was he grateful for you? Did he express how much he appreciated you doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I wonder where he is today.
That's why it's
that's it.
Know, it's not. The coach is not about the money.
Right.
It's about the calling.
Yeah, it's about the calling. It's about impacting lives for generations. Picture the generations just in that one boy/man, the difference that you made in their life. For generations, the way he carries himself, the way his family, his kids someday. Wow. Wish we could follow up with him and see what's going on. You got to track him down, bro. Let's track him down. Put that on the list.
That'd be good.
We got to track him down.
Yeah.
We need, and then we'll bring this back on the show, and maybe we'll interview him and see how much that impacted his life.
Oh my gosh.
And where he's at this day and age.
Wow.
Amazing. All right, keep going a little bit, Larry.
All right.
Now, okay, so.
Now you got me all emotional.
Yeah, see, this is good. I knew I'd get you. I get almost everybody.
Oh, funny.
But that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is.
Like right there, you realize right there, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And your higher calling, right?
Definitely.
Why God put you here, right there. One man, one boy. And that's just one of many.
Right.
Right? So you guys came one game away. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Were the guys just was the camaraderie in the locker room? Did you just get them to believe? Like, what was how did you get them to come together so much?
It really starts with vision, and I laid out a vision. I made our off-season conditioning and our spring practice difficult.
Yeah.
I'll just say difficult.
Yeah.
And then we had a camp, that they've never had before, and we called it Camp Smith for lack of a better name.
Yeah.
But so the parents were like, "Oh, this is going to be Camp Nazi," or "Oh, this is going to be," because I made it so difficult, right? Because I wanted them, hey, you want to pay the price to be the best,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
it doesn't come without a price. So they paid the price, and during the summer,
did you lay out the vision before this, before you put them through this?
No, I told them where we were going, right?
What'd you say?
And I said, I didn't come here to be mediocre. I said, definitely didn't come here to do what's been done in the past.
Yeah.
So this is a new time. It's a new place, and we're gonna do things differently and new, and it's gonna be uncomfortable and hard, but it's gonna be worth it.
How many bought in right away, and how many were just like, oh, I don't want this.
There's a couple guys. There were a couple of players that were on the interview panel that got to hear all the other coaches, right? And one of the guys that were interviewed was a coach that had coached with these guys. But one of those players, when it came down to picking what they thought was the best person for the job, he didn't pick the guy that coached him. He said, "You know what? I think Coach Smith is going to be the best player."
Wow.
And the principal went, wow, because she didn't expect she expected both those guys to go with the coach that they knew. So when one of those players turned, he ended up being kind of one of the most pivotal leaders on the team, and saying, "Yeah, this is hard and this is difficult, but you know what? We gotta do this. This is something new. This is something different. We got to trust Coach and what he's saying. He didn't come from college just to mess around.
Yeah.
So he must know what he's talking about, right? And so he became a very effective leader in that locker room, player to player. So
wow, that's so great, man.
Yeah,
I love this.
Yeah, but once we got to camp, it was like they were stepping into a college program. Had every single meal catered for them. We had movie nights. They stayed at the school with me, so I stayed the whole week. They called it Hell Week before.
Yeah.
So we call it Camp Smith now, right? And so
this was a thing already. This high school had already done this.
No, they didn't had a camp. They just called it Hell Week, and they showed up for 2 practices a day.
That's it.
Right? So now we have a camp where they're staying with me
at 24
hours at the school.
Where did they stay?
We set up sleeping bags and cots. And
were the parents like, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah, no, they were definitely wondering what the heck was going to be going on. But
and it was about camaraderie and bonding,
about bringing people together. Hey, we're gonna have common suffering, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna go through these hardships together. We're gonna be together. We're gonna live together. We're gonna talk together. We're gonna dream together. We're gonna share together. And
wow,
magic happened.
Gosh, amazing, dude. Yeah, see, this is it right here. Unbelievable.
That's what community is.
Yeah. Now, did you bring prayer in at all?
Yes.
You did?
Yep.
Right off the bat?
We pray before every game.
Every game?
Yeah. No matter if they told me I couldn't or not.
Did any of the parents have a problem with that? Did they voice it?
Yeah.
You didn't care?
No.
No? So when did you realize in your first coach, Camp Tim?
Camp Smith.
Camp Smith.
Yeah.
How far in, how many days in did you realize they're starting to bond here? Did you realize you had something? Okay, cool. They're coming together.
Yeah. You can see, how you prepare is everything.
Everything.
Right. In fact, Vince Lombardi's famous quote, winning isn't everything. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really kind of misquoted. He said, winning isn't everything, but the willingness to prepare to win.
Ah.
Okay. And so, I could see in practice how different their preparation started becoming. Like they weren't just going
through the motions.
They weren't just giving an effort. They started to give their best effort. Right. And that's what I was shooting for. My number one thing is have fun. But the second thing is be the best. Be the best you, be the best teammate, be the best team. How do we do this? Right? And so it all gets back to how you prepare. And so you can start seeing the notches start to level up in how they're preparing. Are you going to go easy with the teammate in practice? You're just conditioning yourself to go easy with the teammate in a game.
Yeah.
Or easy against your opponent in a game. Right? No, if your teammate doesn't like it, then that's their deal. They can come talk to me. I want to know that.
Yeah.
Why don't you like it?
And that's
it may not be the game for you.
Right. Because at the end of the day, man, the biggest gauge that we have, I think, as coaches, which I'm learning, is are they having fun? Do they enjoy it? Right?
Yes.
And because if they want to come back and play for me again, I realize, okay, I'm doing my job because they want to play and they want me as their coach.
Right.
It means they're having fun. They're enjoying it.
Right.
Right? Is that your gauge?
Yeah. But they don't like the preparation.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So if you can bridge that connection between, hey, it's your preparation that's going to make you enjoy the competition all that more.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, you're going to find out that your preparation is going to elevate your game individually and as a team. And so, you start making these connections in life, right?
Yes.
How you prepare, how you do the daily disciplines.
Connect this to life now. That's what exactly that was be my next segue, was to connect everything about this to life.
How consistent can you be, right? Can you be consistently good and not occasionally great. Right? I know there's, people kind of look down at being good,
Good,
the whole
yeah.
Good to Great book. But, if you can be consistently good, it gives you the chance to be consistently great.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And if, people like that are super talented, okay, they can be occasionally great, but are they going to pay the price to be consistently good? Right? If you're consistently good, oh
Yep.
man, now I can be great.
Yeah.
But you're not going to ever come to that realization, right? Unless you discover it, unless you pay that price, unless you go through the process. And that's Saban's big deal in Alabama. It's all about the process.
It's all about the process.
It's all about the process. Yeah. So,
and this is life.
this is life.
Everything that you do in life.
Everything that we do comes back to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen up.
This
Everything
is
you do in
God's
life.
process. God's a God of process.
Yeah.
He's continually processing us. He said, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to, not to harm you, but to prosper you, to bring you to a future and a hope. Right?
Yeah.
This is the process. Do you know the plans? Do you know the process that God has for us? Because He does. Are we asking? Are we seeking?
Are we seeking?
Are we knocking?
Are we asking? Are we seeking? Are we knocking? Ask.
Ask.
Oh, man. All right. Keep going. Keep going. So, and let's land the plane soon here. So you got to awaken. So keep attributing this to life, because this is good stuff right here, man. This is like because everybody, and I keep saying this, man, we're in such a world of people just aren't present. Everybody's on their devices. Everybody's somewhere else. Nobody's present anymore.
Yep.
But the people out there that are asking, seeking, and knocking, that are wondering right now, how are they going to, what is their calling? How do I keep going?
Yeah. I went through, even with all of that.
Yeah.
During COVID.
Yep.
I started developing a program with our Steve Weatherford.
Yes.
And so I started developing a program, kind of a mentoring program with him. We called it Man Academy. Yeah. And so we did this little mentorship program with a group of guys. And, I started challenging myself even, more in the process, right? Okay, what is it? At this age in my life, what more do you have for me, Lord? Right?
Yeah.
And through that, everybody in the group was saying, "Gosh, it's like this coach is it's like who you are. It's not just like what you do."
Yeah.
And whether it's coaching football or, more importantly, spiritual coaching, life coaching is really what I'm doing now, as a pastor at Awaken. That's the calling. That's the calling of being a coach, and so they were challenging me to really kind of define that more.
Yeah.
And so in that process, I was able to come up with an acronym for what a coach is. And it really kind of crystallizes everything I do. But the C is champion of the champion. I'm a champion of the champion.
Yeah, yeah.
Who lives in overflow, that's the O, right? Who is a man of integrity, character, and love, right? The C part is created to create, and the H part is to bring heaven to earth.
To earth.
So, it all spells out coach, and it was like, gosh, this nails it. This narrows it down for me.
Yeah.
This is my purpose here, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's like I said before, to when you're the champion of heaven, what do you have left to champion? You make champions, and that's what really my life has been, is to make champions. of myself
Yeah.
and others.
Because you're growing the whole time.
I'm growing the whole time.
The
That's
whole
part
time.
of the process, right? It just kind of came up with a little saying recently. It says, hey, if you're, I'm going and growing. Going out. And I'm growing.
I'm going and growing.
Right? I'm going and growing. No matter where I go, no matter where my foot shall trod, no matter where he directs my steps, I'm going. And I'm growing because he's growing me. And throughout this whole process.
And everybody that's listening and watching, I'm just telling you, listen to this right now. Pay attention. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Every day, going
day.
and growing. Every day, seeking, asking, seeking, knocking.
Yeah.
I love that one.
How do we be the best? How do we actually become the best? Do you really believe that you can be the best? It kind of starts there.
Yeah, at what you do in life, right? No matter what
At
you're
who you
doing,
are.
at who you are. Can
Who
you be
you
the best
are.
version of yourself?
Absolutely.
Starts there.
Starts there. But do you believe that that's possible? Right?
Yeah.
Is that there? That just like D'Artagnan, that he had a belief that something different was possible for himself.
Do you have that belief that you can be the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
And then are you willing to pay the price?
Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to find out how? See, that takes courage, because it's gonna have a price tag.
Oh yeah.
Right? Are you willing to find out how you can be the best?
It's going to have a price tag. Big time. Right?
Yeah. It's going to cost you everything.
It's going to cost you everything.
But you'll gain everything.
But you'll gain everything. And so will a lot of people.
You'll gain more. He's got more. He's got more for you.
And who's on the other end of this that's waiting for you to be your best?
Yeah.
How many lives is your best going to impact?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember just a few years back, just being in, one of the daily disciplines is just being with God in the morning.
Yeah.
It was just like any other day. And I just heard him say, Timmy, he calls me Timmy, which is funny. But Timmy goes, do you know the depths of me? And, I can be a little cheeky, now and then. And I knew that wasn't one of these moments, right? It was like one of those, wow, okay. And as I thought about it, I'm like, well, no, God. I mean, who can really know the depths of you, right? He's endless.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no. And it was just silent for a while. I'm just thinking, okay, maybe I said the wrong thing. And then he comes back and he goes, do you want to? Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to know the depths of him? Do you want to know the depths of you? Do you want to know the best you can be? The best you can become? The lives you can impact? The people you can touch? How many you can love? How many you can point them to the source? That's the process, bro.
That's the process, bro. We're ending on that note, dude. As much as I want to keep firing away.
Praise God.
We're ending on that because that was freaking powerful. I love that. I love you, Coach. I want to keep going here, dude. I'm doing everything in my power to stop this because that was too good to not leave off on, and to end on that note is, do you want to get to know the depths?
Yeah. Do you want to?
And look at and what's going to happen, the impact you're going to make if and when you do, right?
Amen.
Amen, ladies and gentlemen. Real Deal Talk, Coach Tim Smith. It's been an honor.
Cool, man.
It's been a pleasure. Love you, bro. Thank you for sharing your time.
Love you, man. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
Incredible honor.
Thank you. My pleasure. Real Deal Talk. That's a wrap. Let's go.